Welcome to Learning to Glow, a show about wellness, skin health, and self-development. I'm your host, Jess. I'm a mom, entrepreneur, and skincare expert. I'm so excited to share tips on how to achieve healthy skin and bring amazing guests in the field of health, fitness, aging gracefully, and personal growth. Let's explore all different ways we can take care of ourselves as women, both inside and out, to truly shine. So let's get glowing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Learning to Glow. I'm joined by Kayla Girgen. She's a certified personal trainer and registered dietitian, and we are diving into the world of rucking. And if you don't know what that is, you definitely want to stay tuned for this episode because it is such a good one. Rucking is combining walking with carrying weight, and she shares her journey of how she discovered it during the pandemic as a way to boost her mental health, her physical strength, and overall well-being. We break down in this episode exactly what rucking is, why it's becoming so popular, and how women, especially as we age, can benefit from this low-impact workout. I also share my experience with it as well, and I'm sure you've seen people walking around with weighted vests, which is a form of that. So whether you're new to fitness or looking for another way to move your body, or you're searching for, different ways to improve your health, I think this is such a great episode with some really basic and practical advice. Also, starting with tips on how to get started with this if you have never done it before, and how to do it in a safe way. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Make sure that you go to the show notes to find Kayla. She was so great. She was wonderful. And please make sure you are subscribed to our show. You can follow us on Apple Podcasts, and you can just hit the little plus sign, and that way you never miss an episode. It will show that you have a new episode in your Apple Podcast. And then you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok as well at Simply Jess Skincare. So if you could share this episode with a friend, that would be amazing. And if you haven't left us a review, please give us a 5-star rating wherever you listen. It helps out the show. Means a lot to me. I love reading your comments and your feedback. If there's any topics that you guys want to hear more from or more about, please send me a message. Thanks again, and here is Kayla. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our show. We have Kayla Girgen with us. I am so happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Welcome. So today we are going to be talking about rucking, and I'm so excited about talking about this because it is very popular, and you can see all the women in my neighborhood walking around with their vests, and I think it's so fun. I have one myself. We talked about offline, but before we get into all of that fun stuff, can you introduce yourself for us to tell us what you do, what got you into this?
Yeah, it's probably the most simple question, and it's one that I struggle with. I feel like I answer this question different every time.
Me too. I do the same thing.
I will say that it took me a really long time to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up. Right out of high school, I went to school to be what I thought was going to be a pharmacist because they made good money and I could, have the medical job, but kind of pick my hours. And then I took my first chemistry class and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm way in over my head. So I ended up leaving and I got swooped up in retail, the sales world for a while. And I found myself on the side because, I wasn't happy with my desk job. And I was reading a lot of fitness and nutrition magazines. This was before we got all of our information from TikTok and Instagram. So I was looking at bodybuilding.com and women's fitness, and probably not real great, places to look for nutrition information. So really, I would say selfishly, I was doing me search, looking at how I could, manipulate my body, whether it's losing weight or building muscle. And the more I learned, the more I was confused. I was just okay, I'm in over my head again. And that's when I started to kind of pursue my personal training certification. And along the way, I figured out what a registered dietitian was. So those are still 2 credentials that I hold. So I have my personal training certification, and then I'm also a registered dietitian. So I love this combination of looking at the nutrition perspective, but then also fitness too, because I think those are very important, and looking at things from a whole life perspective. And then rucking specifically, it was like midst of the pandemic. I was feeling cooped up and just in my head. And I had heard about rucking from Michael Easter. So he had written The Comfort Crisis, and he was just talking about the benefits of being outside. And this was when we were all like locked up and we didn't have gyms to go to. So I started rucking, and really I got into it for the more of the physical benefits. So thinking about like building muscle and losing fat, building cardiovascular health. And what really surprised me was that mental component. So I got outside, it got me out of my head. I feel like my anxiety was much improved. So I found that tool to really help, I think, with that all or nothing thinking, especially around fitness. It's, I think historically I was always all in or all out. I'm doing, working out in the gym 6 days a week. And, there was no room for compromise. But once I discovered rucking, I feel like that was something that really fit into my life and not the other way around.
I love that. And I love that you got also the certifications with nutrition and the fitness part, because if somebody's coming to you for fitness, they also want to know what they're supposed to be eating and vice versa. It's like it goes so hand in hand, like you said, and to get more specific on what the truth actually is and like what actually works instead of just like trying to figure it out on, because there's so many different angles that people come from. I feel like it's one of the most confusing industries, and sometimes it's confusing because there's too much information that's conflicting, and it's like, so we're confused when it's more simple than that a lot of the times, I feel like, right?
Right. And it's not that we have an information deficit. If
Right.
anything, it's the other way around. It's just too much. So I feel like a lot of times, like, I think women especially are very targeted for a lot of the like nutrition rhetoric. And then we just keep doing what we're doing and, whatever that may be, because we're just overwhelmed and don't really know where to start.
Right, exactly. So for somebody listening and they don't know what that term is, wrecking, can you tell us what it is?
Yes, I know, because my phone still doesn't know it. It's either rocking or ducking.
Oh my
And I need to
gosh.
get my autocorrect on board with rucking. So
Yes, you do.
It's like trucking without the T. But rucking is really walking with weight. So I know a lot of women probably have an established walking routine. Basically, you're throwing on either a weighted vest, or a lot of times, like more specifically, a ruck is your weighted pack. So that's a backpack with some weight in it, and you're going for a walk. And some of the benefits you get, especially thinking about women and as we age, as estrogen drops, a lot of times bone density can go down too. Rucking is weight bearing exercise. So it does help provide resistance to your skeleton. It can help with bone density. It can help with muscle building as well as fat loss. So you get the best of both worlds. Rucking does not replace strength training, I will say that. So you get some muscle benefits, but it's not a replacement for formal weight training. You also get cardiovascular benefits. So again, like when you throw 10, 20 pounds on, it's amazing the difference that you notice and maybe your same, footprint or whatever trail that you're doing. You get a pretty good huff and puff, and it's low impact. So I think as we age, or even if you're dealing with maybe lower back pain or maybe knee or ankle issues, it's very low impact. So compared to say running, it's a lot less stress on your joints too. And then, as I mentioned too, you get the mental benefits. I think just getting outside more. We spend over 90% of our day indoors, and I think we just don't spend enough time outside.
I agree 100%. I think, and that is one thing that is, and I've talked about this as a mom on the podcast, that this is a source of stress for me, because I feel like when my kids are sitting inside too long, I'm like, what are you doing? You please get outside, like go outside and do something. And it's so different than like how I grew up. I was outside so much more. And and you're right. Like as we get older, we're like, okay, now we're adults. We don't have to be outside. We can just live our life in front of our computers, do our work. And it's like the focus has always been more on the kids getting outside exposure, but we need it to be outside too.
We're the ones setting the example.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm. So when you mentioned there's either a weighted vest or a ruck, so that's like a backpack, because I don't know what that is. I have a weighted vest. So tell us about that.
Yes. And you can use both.
Okay.
I would say both of them are going to I would say give similar weight bearing benefits. They are different in how they carry weight. So, starting with a weighted vest, I would say that tends to have weight in the front and back. So, for anyone that maybe struggles with balance or stability, that can be a great option to help you feel more supported, but you don't get the posture benefits. So thinking
Mm.
about, again, being indoors, being in front of screens, we're like hunched over our laptops all of the time. And a ruck is basically a backpack. Think like maybe something a little bit sturdier though. It's got padded shoulder straps and it's oftentimes got a weight pocket. So if you imagine a like weighted plate. So if you think of almost like your round gym plates, this one is more rectangular and slips right in your backpack or your ruck pocket. And with a ruck compared to a weighted vest, it's going to pull your shoulders back. So you get a lot more posture benefits with that compared to a weighted vest. And I will say, oftentimes weighted vests come in fixed weights. So, for example, you're buying a 12-pound, 15-pound vest, whereas a ruck, you can swap the weight plates out. And I feel like you can really kind of scale up your weight, up or down depending on your terrain. So I think it's a little bit more flexible weight wise, especially if you're a beginner and you're maybe getting into it, but then you want to add weight maybe more quickly. You can, throw an extra plate in your pack, for example.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I didn't know that. So that's really good to know. I guess I had no idea about that. I just thought the weighted vest was wrecking. But you're like you said it is, but that I love the idea that it's all in the back so that it's working on your posture. I never thought about it like that. Because it's
Yeah.
true,
So
like as you were talking, my back was getting a little bit straighter because I was like, "Uh-oh, I'm doing it."
I know. Well, we're hunched over, and I will say it comes with some like cricks and creaks. Like for me, just getting your spine aligned with something like a ruck when you get your shoulders pulled back. I know, like I noticed a pinch in my shoulder. Sometimes I think little discomforts like that can really come to light too, just when you do get your posture corrected. So I will say that there's a difference between like pain and discomfort. So just kind of know your body. And if something's like tingling or you have like any sharp pains, like scale the weight down. I would say, like you were saying, leaning forward, that's a good sign that maybe you've got too much weight on. So we want to always, like any sort of like strength training or yoga, anything that involves technique, rucking's no different. You want to still be able to like walk with good form because the last thing you want is to get hurt.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that's easier to do as we get older. So, before we get into like, I know there's probably people listening to this who have never done it, don't have a vest, don't have a ruck. Let's talk a little bit more about why they should do this, especially like you said, if it's we're speaking to women here. My audience is all women. And a lot of people they do struggle with getting strength training in, period. They're more, a lot of women that I talk to do more cardio, and some of them are interested in walking. They do like to walk. So, what are some of the benefits? So, for somebody like that who's like mostly just getting cardio, they do love to walk, adding this extra weight, why should they do it? What are some of the most important benefits for women?
Yeah, the muscle piece is huge because especially as we age, naturally we're going to have some sort of like, I would say the functional decline is optional. We almost need a little bit
Mm.
of like a muscle reserve. So the more muscle you have, oftentimes the better your metabolism is humming along. You're going to be able to, pick up your kids or grandkids and have the strength. I think a lot of times, like you said, we have like our cardio queens where you're just like heading on the treadmill or the elliptical for 30 to 60 minutes and all you're worried about is that calorie burn. But oftentimes, I think what we really miss is that opportunity to build strength and not be frail. And rucking can really help, I think, lean you out, but then again, also help put some of that muscle on or maybe even out for body type. So I know the Go Ruck founder, he basically has a company about rucking equipment. So that's their job. But he talks about just how rucking evens you out. So basically, it makes like a super medium. So if you're feeling like you carry a little bit of fluff, it'll help pull off some of that. But then also, if you feel like you're maybe a little bit under muscled, it can help put more on. So it kind of corrects for body type in a sense, too. And we talked about just the mental health benefits. I think oftentimes we set like these really lengthy or really huge fitness goals, and then we just get discouraged before we even start. So I think rucking, if you're taking the dog for a walk or even walking with the kids, you can throw your vest or throw your pack on, and it's a great way to get a good workout. And I know, I work with a lot of women who are like, okay, well, I'm not getting the walk or the workout that I want in because, my dog has to sniff everything, or the kids are, I want them to be out and doing things, and, their little legs don't go as far. But with rucking, you can add more weight on. So even if you're going at a slower pace, you can scale up something like the weight, for example, and still get a really good workout without figuring out how, like, the logistics. How am I going to drive to the gym and then fit in a shower? And now I'm showering twice a day. And we just kind of get in our head. So I think the simplicity of it really, really helps.
I really love that. I just recently learned I have a dog and she's great. Having a dog makes walking so much easier because you got to do it. But when I was listening to something last week and it was talking about a sniff walk, it was a veterinarian, and she's like, if you take your dog on a sniff walk and just let them do whatever they want, stop as many times as they want, that's like more energy releasing for them than like doing a really, strenuous walk and be tugging them the whole time. And what you said, I'm like, that would be the perfect thing to add to my sniff walks because I could just put my vest on and then I don't feel as, I do separate walks now because I do like to give her that time where she can do that. But I'm not going very far until I'm like, okay, it's been 30 minutes and that's enough. You're cut off. And I live on hills. So there's definitely like opportunities, even where we're going slow. I'm walking up hills a lot of the time. So adding that is like such a good idea because it's not too far, but it's like just that extra resistance that I think that's such a good idea for. And, when you go to the park, when you have younger kids, I remember meeting a girlfriend and we were like, why don't we just walk circles around the park while they play? We're keeping our eyes on them, but we're moving at least. And especially with that friend, she was walking so fast, I could barely keep up. But like in those situations, I think we forget that we have opportunities where we can get our steps in and we can even get more out of it if we have this to throw on. Like I have one of my sons does track and he had practice last night. So instead of just sitting in my car and like looking at my phone, I just get out and walk a lot. And I was actually keeping my vest in my truck so I could just grab it. And like for times like that, I think so what you were saying, it really rings true. And we're so busy, all the moms that I talk to, we are so busy. There's work, there's kids sports, like wherever they can fit in some time is good. And even better if you can add that too.
Exactly. And I think too, like you said, at the park or walking the track, waiting for your kids at practice, if you have your vest, like you could even, if you want to be that mom or like, make a scene for people, you can do squats or lunges or step ups on the park bench. So you can use your ruck or your weighted vest as resistance too, and, knock out squats while you're waiting for your dog to sniff all the things or, lunge uphill. So I think there's different ways that you can actually use that as a tool for strength training too. And now my neighbors are just conditioned to not ask me if I'm training for everything. Now they ask me if I'm not wearing my pack and they think they're catching me. They're like, you're not wearing your pack today.
I love it. I think
Yes.
it's so true. Like it doesn't have to be an hour and a half at a gym to be effective. Like we can get things in where we can, like the lunges that, at my son's track practice, there's bleachers. So I can walk up and down the bleachers. And then that's more effective if I bring my vest too. So I think that's really good to know because instead of being like, oh, it's only 10 minutes or it's only 30 minutes, what's the point? I mean, I kind of used to think like that. And now I'm just like, because I have a goal of walking at this current time, 15,000 steps a day, I have to do every minute I can because I don't have time for like big walks anymore. Like I'll be like 20 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at lunch. Like I have to spread it out. So if I get the opportunity, even if it's 10 minutes, I do feel like, don't you think that's good too?
Yes. And I think too, we see research. I can't remember the exact study, but I feel like they looked at people, they looked at their blood sugar, and they had a few different groups. So one group did, I think, one 30-minute walk in the day. Then they did a group, I think it was like two 15-minute walks. And then another third group was, I think, 2 minutes, like 2 minutes of moving around every hour, maybe. And they actually found that the group that moved in smaller increments more frequently had better blood sugar overall too. So
Yeah.
I think that those little movements help a lot. And like you said, when your goal is 15,000 steps, you're really thinking about every little opportunity. And I think that we probably need more than a 30-minute session every day, but plugging in, little things where we can is really, I think, huge. And it adds up as I'm sure like looking at your steps, you're like, okay, well, I was doing laundry or did like a
Yeah.
couple extra, rounds around the kitchen island, and all of those little things. Yeah, surely
They
add up.
they totally add up, especially if I'm looking at my steps and it's like 5 or 6 and I'm at like under 10,000. I'm like, oh gosh, because that means I didn't move enough during the day, and I've been in my backyard like doing laps before because I need to get my steps in, and I didn't have time or I didn't focus on getting them throughout the. It's fun to kind of play around with what spare time do I have, and I have a walking pad. And I think for a lot of people who sit a lot, if they're able to, especially if you work from home, but I know even people who have them in their offices at their desk, that is so great to get your steps in and get so you feel like you're getting also something accomplished. And then that's another great time to probably put your vest on because you're flat. So it's like that just adds to it if you're just walking flat surfaces. The first time I wore my vest around my house, it was really hard because I'm in such a hilly area. But people who ruck are like climbing mountains, right? Like they're not just walking flat.
I would say it goes both. You can really ruck anywhere. Like anywhere you'd walk or run, you can ruck.
Yeah.
And I think even inside the house, like I have clients who will wear their weighted vest or their ruck while they vacuum or
Oh,
outside, like while they're mowing. And really, I think there's no like right or wrong time to wear it. And I think when you think about like bending over to pick up toys or whatever it is, like you are gauging your core, you think a lot more because the weight is distributed or you have more weight up top. And it really, I think, it can turn those household chores into a different experience a lot of times, or again, like working those muscles and injecting little things throughout your day. So you'll have to try it next time you vacuum or next time you're picking up the house.
that's a really good idea. I never thought
Mhm.
about doing it just like in the house I mean, I'm always walking around doing stuff. So I feel like that is such a smart way to get some extra resistance in when you're just doing your basic house chores. Like, I love that idea. So
Yeah.
if somebody is listening to this and they're like, okay, I'm interested, totally don't know where to start, tell us where, for the person who's just listening for the first time about this, where do they start? And like maybe you can talk to us about weight. And I know the weighted vests are probably more affordable because you are limited to like once you buy that weight, like mine's a 12-pound vest. Let's start with like maybe the weighted vest and what you would recommend, and then maybe you can talk about the rucking too, and like for someone who's never done this.
Yeah, if it's something you haven't done before, oftentimes you can probably even start with something that you have on hand. So if you have an old backpack, oftentimes those have, say, like a laptop sleeve in the back. And that's how I started. I grabbed
Oh.
my old backpack. I took a couple textbooks, threw them in my backpack, and you'd be surprised just even adding like 5 or 10 pounds, how that can make a difference just again on your posture when your shoulders are pulled back. I feel like for me, I noticed a tightness like in my hips. So as much as you might want to throw 20 pounds in, I would like, especially the first few rucks, go light and go easier. So maybe starting with 5 to 10 pounds, I would say most people can start with 10 pretty comfortably and trying to keep it, I would say, under a mile or two, because even though you might not feel it right afterwards, you might feel it the next day. Again, that change in posture, you might feel tightness in your hips or something different in your shoulders, and it can take your body a little bit to adapt as you straighten out. So you can start with something that you've got on hand. I took my old backpack, I wrapped a 10-pound dumbbell in a towel and put that in the laptop sleeve pocket, and that's what I did just to kind of get started. And of course, like I feel like as you go up on weight, like the last thing you want is like a dumbbell poking you in the back. So once I realized that it was something I was going to do often and that I really liked, I bought ruck plates. And basically they're cast iron plates. They look rectangular, so they slip right into the pocket, whether it's a backpack or something like a formal rucksack. So a backpack, oftentimes, once you get into heavier weights, say over 20 pounds, then you might need something specific. So one company I love is Go Ruck, and they have all kinds of different rucksacks that you can pick from. And they have padded sleeves. They often have like a shoulder strap too, or a sternum strap. So I will say that having that helps distribute the weight differently too. So you can kind of clip it. And I would say for women, like watching out where that shoulder strap is. Some weighted vests I know will have that too, but like if it's right across your bust line, you might have to have it go above or below the girls depending on how well endowed you are. But when it comes to a pack, I would say like testing it, especially if it has the shoulder strap with weight in it, because then you're going to be able to see where that strap lies if you have one. And then as you get into heavier weights, like some packs will even have like a hip belt. So if you think of even like a backpacking or a hiking pack, a lot of times those are padded as well. So you could use something like that. But I would say for most people, like 10, maybe 15 pounds, depending on your fitness level. And I would maybe use that for the first couple of weeks just to see how you adapt. And then maybe adding in like 5 pound increments. I know if you're looking at formal like weights or weight plates, usually those will come in like 10 pound increments. So you can always throw in like a couple cans of beans or again, like textbooks. You could get really creative and ruck for nothing. You don't have to go out and buy something, but once you scale up weights, then you probably are going to want sturdier equipment.
I love that. I never thought of doing it like a little DIY ruck. That's
Yes,
cool.
some people get really clever. I've seen on Facebook groups where they'll take cement pavers, like put duct tape on them, or like there is a lot of like MacGyvering out there if you look for it.
That's so
So I think the
smart.
hardest thing is just making sure like when you're wearing the weight, like you want it high and tight on your back. So you don't
Right.
want anything that's flopping around in the backpack. You want it so it's secured and not banging around. So think about having it high and tight. So kind of like mid to upper back as much as you can. And that's where a rucksack is nice because it'll have that pocket up higher versus like, again, like my old school backpack, I could really feel the weight sitting on my lower back. And that's where you don't want it. You can really start to feel where it gets tender, especially when you have a 10-pound dumbbell rubbing. So you can use something like an old yoga mat or even like towels again to kind of help pad in the inside of your backpack to get that weight nice and secure.
Okay, that's a good point to remember so it's not bothering your lower back. That's a really good point. But I love the idea that you don't have to commit to buying something right away. Try it out first because I know, a lot of times we see something online and we're like, oh, it's so easy to be influenced nowadays. I feel like, I bought my vest right away. I was like, I got to have one of those. But, especially if there are ways to try it out first without committing, financially to it. I think that's a good way to go. Do you find that it's like so popular now, like compared to when you first started? Because I don't feel like I saw that many people around COVID using them. Like what happened?
Definitely.
What happened? Why did it get so popular?
Yeah, I think Michael Easter was a big one. So he
Okay.
was a big proponent of rucking. And I think, again, like it's simple. So it is low impact. I think depending on your fitness level, like whether you're advanced, you can always do more weight or find hills. Or if you're just beginning, you can start on flat terrain, low weight. So you can really scale it up or down, which is one of my favorite things. Or even like you were talking about your friend who walks really fast. What I like is like my husband and I started a ruck club, and within that, you have a lot of different fitness levels or people who walk at different speeds. But I think the social component too, there is, if you're walking with your friend, throw some extra weight on her, slow her down, and then you could go lighter and you can really even out. And I feel like you both get a really good workout and you also get that time together. So again, like busy moms, if you're wanting to walk with a certain friend or neighbor, but you feel like they slow you down or you're struggling to keep up, rucking is a great way to even that out. So you both get the workout you want. It's social, it's getting you outside, but then again, you also get a great workout.
I love that. That's so sweet. I actually have been seeing a few of my girlfriends a lot more lately since I've started walking because I do not do long walks by myself. This is so bad, but I get really bored. So I'm always like, okay, like who's up for a walk after the sun isn't so strong because it's so hot right now. It's so amazing. Like I look forward to my girlfriends who I see on a weekly basis and we get to walk together and catch up. And it's just so much more fun with a friend. One of my girlfriends even got a vest too. We don't always show up wearing it because we're like, like we're not feeling super stoked today. No vest.
And
But
I think that's a key point too, is like recognizing that you don't have to ruck every day. It's like some days maybe it's just a walk.
right. You know what? I was going to ask you that too, because thank you for reminding me. There are days, like I said, where I'm like, I'm feeling extra strong. I don't have a lot of time. I definitely want to get the most out of this walk. I'm definitely putting my vest on. And then there's days where I'm like, okay, like this is going to be a longer walk. My mom and I we haven't in a little while, but we will go to the beach and do like a 2.5 hour walk. And I'm like, I'm scared to put the vest on. Like that's too long. I don't know if I can hang that whole time because it's a pretty hilly walk. So tell us about that. Like how often, like when, should we do it versus like just a walk? Like tell us a little bit. And obviously this is so different for every single person, and every single person is going to have a different experience depending on the day and your cycle, all of the things.
Right. And I think 2 to 3 days a week is a good starting
Okay.
point. I know some people like will rock every day, but I would say like not like going for a PR or carrying heavy every day. That's the one thing that I really like. I use a ruck plate carrier. So sometimes like if I know I'm going for a longer distance or it's really hilly, I'll do lighter weight
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa. If it's something where, okay, I only have 20 minutes, I'm going to do my quick mile loop and then maybe I'll just do heavier because I'm feeling like I want to challenge myself. But I would say rucking is a great base. So thinking about it like a meal, like rucking is fantastic for that cardiovascular piece. I would still maybe add in some sort of strength training, whether or not that's using your weighted vest or your ruck, like as that resistance. And then I think mobility is great too. So stretching, yoga, things like that, just to help keep you limber and keep you rucking, that can certainly help. So I would say 2 to 3 times a week starting out. You can do more or less. And I think it really depends on, again, your distance, terrain. There's really 3 different, I would say, levers you can pull in terms of increasing or decreasing the difficulty. That's the weight. And then I would say incline. So that's actually more than weight. Like you said, finding hills, that's going to really tax your body more so than even adding weight. And then speed or distance. So if you're really working on like pushing the pace or, beating a PR on something, that's, I would say, the third lever. But don't go and try to do everything all at once. Pick one variable, whether it's increasing the weight or finding a hill. Don't do everything all at once.
Yeah, I know. I know we go all out sometimes. How heavy do people go with wrecking? Like I think the heaviest weighted vest I saw was like 20 something pounds. But like how heavy did these people go with wrecking?
I've seen it taken to the extremes. Like I'm thinking about the social media posts and I had to immediately go to the comments. Like, we've got to look at the comments. And it was a gentleman like on a treadmill with 100 pounds. And it just I was looking at really poor posture and I was feeling bad for this treadmill. I was like, I bet these gym workers are just thinking like, oh my gosh, that's so hard on their equipment. But I would say most often, like the upper limit would be 25, 30%
Okay.
of your body weight. So if you're 150 pounds, I would say like no more than 50 pounds. And you don't have to get that high to see that benefit. So what I often see is like finding that base weight. So what's comfortable for me right now, that's about 20 pounds. If
Mhm.
I'm doing something, again, really long distance or a lot of elevation, I might scale that back to 15. But I've also been dabbling with like adding an extra 5 or 10 pounds again, like on those shorter rucks. Where I'm at, it's relatively flat. So last night I did 30 and I could feel it today. So I think that it really depends on you. And I certainly didn't start there. I started with maybe 10 pounds. And then, most people would scale up to 15 or even 20 pretty quickly, like within a month or two. But it's not about like how much weight you can carry. I would say it's doing it with good form. Again, getting outside, looking at the big picture, because I can see it again being taken to the extreme where you're now on a treadmill with the elevation all the way up with 100 pounds with really poor form and you're just waiting to get injured.
Oh my gosh, that is not a goal of mine
I would I would say with males, I definitely see it's harder to take the ego out. Females, not so much. Like I see like with women, it's like, okay, you've been like sporting this 10-pound vest for a while. How about we add 5 pounds or something? So I think sometimes it's even maybe the other way around, but I would say males, we kind of have to like pull them back a little bit.
That is so funny. I think this is so fun. I would love if you could share, if there's anything else, first of all, that you want to share with us about it or with the audience before we find out where they can find you. Do you have any other tips or any other things you want to share?
I think the biggest mistake I see is not doing it. So a lot of people are
Okay.
like, oh, I'll start tomorrow. I'll maybe start rucking next week. Or I can't find that backpack. It's like, get the backpack out, throw a couple textbooks in it, and just do it. And you'll be really surprised. I know, like me, your neighbors might look at you weird the first like couple times they see you out, but I promise they'll get used to it. And I think you might be surprised, again, just seeing how adding 5, 10, 15 pounds can really make a difference. And I feel like it feels kind of badass. Like when you're walking, you've got your pack on and it just feels like way cooler than just walking.
Yeah.
So I would say just like try it out. And if you don't like it, you can always like add weight, as one of my clients says. Like if it's a little bit too much, you can scale it up, you can scale it down. But I would say just get out there, grab your backpack, put some weight in it, and go for a walk.
I love that. That's so great. And it is fun. I don't feel like you'll look weird. Like every time I'm in my car, I see at least most of the women, I'm telling you, most of them have it on. So we're not we're not weird for having it. I love that. So tell us where we can find you and tell us, like, do you offer any ways to work with people and like all of that good stuff?
Yeah, so I am at Kayla Girgen RD on all the things. I would say I'm most active on Instagram,
Okay.
but what I really love is I write a weekly newsletter. It's free, but I have nutrition, fitness tips, recipes. Really, I would say that it's whatever is on my heart that week. For example, I talked about like snacking and grazing this last week, and next week I'm talking about menopause. So I would say the topics can really fluctuate. And again, you get free tips there. I do nutrition coaching. I use CGM, so continuous glucose monitoring. I would say with Rucking, that is one other tool that's really, I think, helped me overcome that all or nothing thinking, especially when it comes to food.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes to rucking, I actually wrote a book on it. So that will be coming out in January. You can pre-order on Amazon now. It's called RuckFit. So if you search RuckFit Kayla Girgen, that's available. And then you'll get that when it's in warehouse later this year or early next year.
Awesome. I will link all of that and I will link your book and we will have you back so we can talk about your book more towards the end of the year. But thank you. This is so much fun. I think this is so motivating. I was telling you my son did steal my vest and I can't find it. So I am going to right now get off this call and look for my vest because I cannot wait to start. I want to start doing it more often. And I think I'm very motivated. There's just so many great benefits to doing this. And you explained them so well. So thank you so much for sharing all of this with us.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please subscribe and review so we can reach more people who want to learn to glow alongside us. See you next time.